Today, we're talking about 300% returns on printed cardboard. That's right, 151. If you bought these 2 years ago, you're up 300%, beating the S&P 500, crypto, almost any traditional investment. But the question everyone's asking me, is the party over or is it just getting started? Today on PokeMarketLab. All right, everyone, let's get started here. But before we do, hit that sub button below. Please leave a comment, like the video, turn on notifications, all that good stuff. Yeah, we're talking about 151 today. We are at a kind of a precipice with this set. We're getting close to that 2-year mark, that magical no reprints happen after 2 years. The Pokemon Company has done its damnedest trying to drive this product into the ground with print wave after print wave, specifically on bundles, leaving, though, the ETBs largely untouched for literally at least the last year. If I'm thinking, like, we haven't had ETBs hit the market in the last year at minimum, probably closer to about 15 months worth of no ETBs on this product. But on the flip side, we've had tremendous numbers of Blooming Waters and regular booster bundles, and but that hasn't done anything to quench the market. The demand on this is so massive. So we're going to talk about today on today's video where we're currently at with 151, where there's still opportunity, and what that future may hold for this set. We're going to look at some specific data. We're going to kind of do a thought analysis on, okay, is it worth chasing this product that is, like I talked about at the opening of this video, 300% up from its original prices on release day? Is it too far ahead of us to chase after, or there's some opportunity here? And so with that, let's get started here on our analysis, and we're going to kind of break this down into a thought experiment here. So let's talk about what we know that's as close to fact as we can get, and let's talk about what we need to guess at. And what I mean when I say guess is an educated guess. So let's talk about first what we know. We know we're approaching the 2-year mark on this set. What does that mean? That means we're getting to the end of its print cycle. That's not a guarantee. It's not some magical, it's kind of what I joked about at the beginning of the video. It's not a magical line in the sand that as soon as we cross it, that means no more reprints. That's not what it means, but it does historically carry some weight. It does mean we're getting close to the end. I've talked about this many times where I think from an investment standpoint, that looking at product that's about to exit that 2-year mark is a real, from an investment standpoint, it's one of the best things you can do. The risk there, of course, is that product is probably inflated in price by that point, and that's what we're dealing with with 151. But it's a very special situation with this product because it is so beloved. It has all that. It has the nostalgia. It has a very different feel than even a lot of sets within Scarlet and Violet, and it's certainly in comparison to Sword and Shield, it's a very, very different set. Item 2 on the what we know list, high demand, and that reprints had little effect. So that's a 1-2 punch. This has been, I find it hard, and we're going to look at some data here, some grading data to kind of prove this out. The demand on this product has been extremely sustained for a long period of time. The only thing that really disrupted this from a sales volume standpoint was Prismatic. Prismatic kind of sucked all the air out of the room. Not all of the air, but it took that focus away from 151. 151 very much drove the beginning of the uptick in the Scarlet and Violet boom. I shouldn't say it drove it. It would benefited probably first out of anything. So the history behind 151 is that when it first came out, it didn't do much. It did not do much for about 6 months into its life cycle, where its ETB sat, they're readily available, and then at that start of the bull run, right in kind of September, October of 2024, 151 led the charge. So that was well past its release point, though, before it really started to get some traction. Point number 3 is fantastic ETB and PC ETB promo. I kind of have that listed twice here on the list, but that promo, that Snorlax promo, we're going to talk about where that price is, where we think that can go. Very, very good promo, which we know on the Pokemon Center ETB side of things, the scarcity on that box plus the scarcity of the promo, the special promo that's in there that's stamped, matters tremendously. And the fact that it's just a really good beloved set that's nostalgic is just, it's nuclear at this point. Which talks about, we talk about that nostalgic point here again, where there's so many people, and I think we need to talk about demographics at this point, where there's so many people with money in the millennial kind of demographic, that this just again, that's the type of people that are buying this. And again, they have money, and this is 151. It's going back to the original, right? Let's talk again about extremely little ETB availability, release plus 6 months, no subsequent waves. Once we got past the 6-month mark, I shouldn't say it was exactly 6 months. I don't remember exactly when that well dried up, but I can tell you that when the bull run started in 2024, in fall of 2024, there were no more ETBs coming out. We were not getting them from Target. Again, you correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I don't think there was any, other than private individuals, private businesses selling them, there weren't any more distribution waves from distro. And we were expecting this. We were expecting more ETBs to hit the market. I even at the start of this channel talked about when are we going to see more ETBs for 151, and they did not materialize. The only influx of product and packs to the market for 151 in the last pretty much year has been Blooming Waters and bundles. And then, you know, you're talking posters, some drops of poster collections and binder collections and things like that. So, and then again, I kind of doubled up on the PC ETB stamp promo performance. That is again a huge catalyst for the growth of the Pokemon Center ETB and even the regular ETB, which we're going to talk about. And then let's talk about some guesses. So this is stuff that we're going to take some, you know, what we know and kind of make some educated guesses. And all of this again is a thought experiment about, you know, a thinking experiment that you can do just to kind of make almost like a Venn diagram of pros and cons situation to say, okay, is it worth, if I'm going to spend some of the money on sealed product that we're talking about here, what's the better buy out of what we see here? Should we be chasing this, right? And I think the fundamental answer to that question is going to go back to what do you currently have for 151, and does it check any of the boxes of the things that we want when we're talking about an expensive product? So let's talk about the guesses. And I think the first one on this list here is low ratio of ETBs produced versus bundles. Again, we did not see subsequent waves of ETBs. We did see many waves of 151, specifically through Target. Target was a huge influx of those. And it was consistent for a long period of time. And we're finally starting to see that dry up. And again, it doesn't mean just because we're seeing it dry up, we're not going to see anymore. We're still seeing Blooming Waters at Target on shelves periodically. And when I say on shelves, meaning not sitting there for people, meaning people are just seeing them in the wild. Whether that is current, you know, reprint waves coming or just stock that's making it through, we don't know. But again, we're getting close to that 2-year mark. So my point being is, if we're going to buy a premium product like this that we know is a premium set, it's a really good set, if we can buy Scarcity too, that's what we want to go after, okay? Second point, massive destruction ripping. We're going to look at the grading data on that. This is a heavily ripped set. It was a heavily produced set, and I'm going to point that out to you. I'm going to actually, in some way, shape, and form, kind of prove that out to you here on another slide. Third point here, lots of sealed bundles, Blooming Waters, sitting sealed. So a lot of people missed the boat on the ETBs. Like we talked about, people were waiting, even myself, waiting for more ETBs to hit the market to snag them and pick them up. People didn't get that opportunity. So a lot of investors who are coming into this hot market are picking up that bundle and picking up that Blooming Waters and keeping them sealed. A lot of it's getting ripped, but I can tell you anecdotally, I'm seeing a lot of people in my local Pokemon group from my local state and local region, and people are buying them up and posting pictures of literally warehouse and storage lockers full of this stuff. It is seen as a hot investment. It was very much seen. There's a lot of people in the hobby from a collecting and investing standpoint who are here because of 151. So I want you to keep that in mind, not because it's not a good product to buy, but again, I think this goes back to what are the better products out of the SKUs listed here on the screen? What's the better buy? What should we be putting our money after? And again, we're going to talk more about that in a second. Let's also talk about the fourth point here. The Pokemon Company International has other reprint priorities. That is, again, I think that may even be fact at this point. So again, we're hitting that the reason I put that on there is we're hitting that 2-year mark. We know there are other reprint priorities. They're going to have to leave this alone at some point. And I think we're getting to that point because we have seen that spigot dry up. We've seen less product hit the market. All right, so that's kind of the thought experiment there. So let's talk about where we currently are at with sealed products. We're going to talk about the Pokemon Center version of the ETB and the regular ETB as well. Let's talk about Pokemon Center ETB. This is the first ETB in Scarlet and Violet to hit $1,000, and it will hit that. And I think this is going to be, and I'm so thankful to have a couple of these. It is a prized collection. This is 151 in general has exceeded my expectations, and the Pokemon Center ETB is it's blowing me away. And it is, I've said this many times, these are collector's items. I wish they did better artwork on these. You can see the artwork is extremely similar, which is very dangerous if you are getting product from both the Pokemon Company and regular ETBs shipped to you on release day and you're doing any cracking. Boy, you got to be careful. You are not opening that Pokemon Center version of the box, right? That promo in here, that Snorlax, I do not think is better than the Obsidian Flames Charmander looking out the window, but I would say it's second place. An extremely expensive promo from an extremely rare box. And we've talked about this before. The earlier Scarlet and Violet Pokemon Center ETBs seem to be a lot scarcer than the back half, right? The demand signal from the market on Pokemon Center ETBs from Obsidian Flames, 151, Paldea Evolved, they just were not, the market wasn't there yet. We were not hot when those sets came out. And the difference now is, these were sitting on shelves for a long period of time, and they're not now. They're in high demand. So if you have a PC ETB version of 151, then please hold on to it. That is, there's, one thing you can kind of do and pretend in your head is, okay, if you're in this hobby a year from now, would you be surprised to see that if it's $1,000 today, would you be surprised to see it at $1,500 or even $2,000? 5 years from now, is it less or more likely that it's a $2,000 to $3,000 box? That would not surprise me. That would not surprise me with the promo here, with it being 151, with it being how scarce it is. I do not think is out of the question. So the question on that one is, do you chase after that? And that is an extremely expensive box with a lot of growth. You're at 550% return. This was a $60 box on release day. I can't answer whether you chase that or not. That's kind of a white whale to go after. I think I can't sit here and tell you to spend $1,000 on that box, other than to say, if you want it, it's absolutely a collector's piece. I think you should buy it with a collector's mindset, not necessarily an investment mindset. However, I do think it's going to perform well. I just think there's a lot to take $1,000 and apply that to other boxes, other product, like a Fusion Strike box, or even I would probably stay away from buying some of the elevated booster boxes in Scarlet and Violet. This is best of breed. That is the best performing box on a percentage basis in Scarlet and Violet, I believe. And again, I don't think that 2 years from now that's necessarily going to be different. So just proceed at your own risk when spending $1,000 on a box. But it is the box essentially in Scarlet and Violet. So let's talk about the regular ETB here. And I think this is from a future growth standpoint, I think this is the better buy. The percentage gain here, we're over 300% from initial release. I think I'm of the mindset at $350 a box that's I don't want to say that's a steal, but if you're not buying stuff in a vacuum, you're buying stuff in comparison. You should always be comparing it to other things that are on the market. I'm going to pick on Destined Rivals again. I would much rather have an ETB from 151 at $350 a box than Destined Rivals booster boxes at $350 that is going to get reprinted. 151 is not going to get reprinted. You have to make, I'm sorry, but you have to make that comparison. You're not living in a vacuum here. Again, unless if you're using some kind of analysis, some kind of fundamental approach or methodology to making these purchases, you got to compare it to Destined Rivals. 151s, I think, is the better set. I think it's the better looking box. It's nostalgic. It's everything compared to Destined Rivals. There's no question. There should be no second thought that this is what you should be buying. And this is really the kind of the thesis of this video. What should you be deploying your money on if you miss the boat on 151? If you're looking to add to your position, I think the regular ETB is the way to go. And we're going to look at a couple other products here, but I still think I didn't want you to wait to the end of the video, but I don't think there's any question here. The reason for that again is going to be, yeah, if you want to get 151 to rip or just to have, maybe you don't have $300. Yes, get the bundle or get a binder collection or get a poster collection. That's fine. If you're talking about and you want to talk about what the best performers are going to be in the future, for a dollars spent to percentage gain ratio, you're going to want to be in the ETB. The bundles are far more voluminous in 151 than any other product, right? That was their method by which they put packs into the market for the last year, and that's fine. And that's still a great way. That's a low entry point to get into product, but it's not going to, scarcity matters from the box standpoint. You're going to have scarcity in the regular ETB. You're not going to have that anytime soon with the regular booster bundles. That doesn't mean you're not going to get gains. We have seen gains on the booster bundles. I just don't think you're going to see them as quickly as on the regular ETBs. Let's talk about these promos here in the performance. Just absolutely meteoric performance on the regular non-stamped version of this promo. Kudos to those who were picking these up for less than $1 a year ago. Look at that freaking chart. I mean, and I actually still think at $15 a pop, remember the origins of this promo. It comes from an ETB that is scarce, that is not coming, that it's a beautiful promo. $15 is not a terrible price for a promo out of a regular ETB. That is, we're not getting any more. It's Snorlax. I think I'm certainly after this video picking up a couple more of those. I think the stamp promo, I absolutely look at how many are on the market. That's how rare. Now remember, that's how rare the Pokemon Center ETB version of that card is, or a Pokemon Center ETB box, I should say. They're just scarce. They're super scarce. And again, to the point of the stamped promo version, who's going to rip $1,000 box to get a $200 card? Meaning there's no more coming. There's no more coming. So absolutely great buy, I think, on the $15 version, the regular non-stamped version of this card. Again, I warn people, do not spec on singles, but I think if you want to get some for your collection, pick up one and pick up a couple more to have. I think the growth potential is high there. All right, let's talk about bundles. I think, again, we have another slide here that's going to be really eye-opening, I think, from a pack standpoint for 151. The bundles are a fine buy. I just want you to see the difference in numbers here versus what we just looked at with the Pokemon Center ETB and the regular Elite Trainer box. 9,000 of these listed on TCG Player. Over 26,000 of them have sold in the last year. Just think of that from a ratio standpoint versus what we just saw, and it's still up 115%. I thought for a while, I've warned people on these, be careful with these because there's a lot of these sitting in inexperienced hands from a sealed collection standpoint. And if the market got bad, these were going to flood the market in numbers that people wouldn't even freaking understand, because there's already 10,000, almost 10,000 of these listed. But it shrugged that off. It really hasn't cared. 151 is just it might as well not be Scarlet and Violet. It's on a completely different planet. It's in a completely different universe. And I think that will hold true into the future. So again, don't be shrugged off by, the price on these. I would snag one or two if you can afford it. But if you can really, again, go for that ETB, grab the ETB. If you want this for performance from a dollar standpoint and a percentage standpoint, you need to be in the ETB. Think of it as 3 bundles. 4 bundles technically, but you get my point. I would rather be in that. From a performance standpoint, it's going to do better. It has a promo in it. It's scarce. All those things. And again, there's not going to be scarcity on the bundle anytime soon. And that's going to just be, it's going to be a weight. It's going to be a gravity in terms of it trying to perform, and it will perform. Again, don't get me wrong. If this is all you can get, you're going to get some gains off of it. Just be careful. Okay, we're going to do some math now here. We're going to look at the Charizard EX from 151, and we're going to look at some grading data. And from that, based on the pull rates, we can make some assumptions about packs and maybe even sealed volumes here. So looking at the Charizard first, let's follow my my math here, kind of follow my flow. So this is a heavily graded card. It's a heavily pulled card. And I think the thesis on this screen is 151 is heavily ripped. I think there's a lot of sealed out there, but the rippers got a hold of this. This is absolutely a product that benefited from the boom in the rip and ship on whatnot, on YouTube, on all these places. It just heavily ripped product, just a beloved product, which is good. This is a good thing from an investment standpoint. Think about this long-term nostalgia, all those things. That's what we want. We want a product that had its sealed population depleted. We want a product that's going to be ripped into the future. We want that. So 76,000 of those Charizards were graded. So that doesn't mean 76,000 Charizards were ripped. This is only what's sent in for grading. So obviously the raw population included in this would be much larger. The point being here is it's a heavily pulled and graded card, which I think implies that this is a heavily ripped product. So in this, just if we're looking at pull rates here, that 76,000 Charizards represents 17 million packs of 151 at about $85 million worth of value if we look at it at a $5 per pack run, which is obviously there's a lot more, you know, the cost of that pack is a lot higher now. So if we take that many packs and we kind of divide it up into some products, and we don't know the product mix, but we're going to take that, what we looked at TCG Player, and kind of use some similar ratios to what product was sold to what may be out there in the wild for products. And you can mix that ratio up however you want. The point being is there's a ton of 151 that has been ripped. So taking that 17 million packs, that means, you know, the way I kind of did it was 280,000 Blooming Waters, which I think is probably on the low side. I think that's probably closer to 500,000. And again, this is just what was ripped. That's 1.1 million booster bundles and 370,000 ETBs. That's a lot of damn product, people. And again, that's just in the same flow. If you were to take that again, that 76,000 Charizards, that's 17 million packs. And then you do the division of, you know, 9 packs per ETB, 6 packs per bundle. I think it's 12 or 14 packs per Blooming Waters, and kind of use that to just inform how many boxes were ripped in the creation and the liquidating of that many Charizards. It's a lot. And again, that doesn't mean like there's way more Charizards out there. There's probably easily 100,000 of them. So again, the point in this video, the scope of what I'm trying to tell you is this is a massively produced product. That doesn't mean I don't want you to have it. I want you to have it. But again, I think the point is get the ETB. That is the takeaway of this video. If you're comparing it to almost anything in Scarlet and Violet, you're talking booster boxes that are, I think even Temporal and Paradox are approaching $250. Spend an extra $100 and get an ETB. I know it's not a booster box, but the scarcity of that is so vastly different than every other product in the 151 realm that you really need to consider them as being completely different from a performance ratio and performance standpoint. So the caution I really want you to have here when we're looking at deploying more money than we typically might on a product, or maybe call it chasing the price of a product, which again, I think if you're going to the market and looking at almost any booster box in Scarlet and Violet, I think you should be looking at something like this. You should be looking at something that's older, where we don't have that reprint risk, specifically on the ETBs. We're talking about risk where you have some margin behind you, meaning that product has appreciated. You're not getting in on the ground floor. And again, if you did get in on the ground floor in ETBs and you kept them sealed and you had that wherewithal, kudos to you. You've made a bunch of money. You're about to make even more money into the future, specifically on those Pokémon Center ETBs. You have to know there's risk there. I think the risk on a product that's not going to get reprinted, again, specifically the ETBs, I think is minimal. I think it would take a black swan event to cause you to go upside down on that product. I would find it hard to believe, even if the greater Pokemon market took a cooling off session or cooling off period, I would find it hard to believe those ETBs would move downwards. So again, just know that. And again, especially if you're going after the Pokemon Center ETB at $1,000, that's a lot of money. That is a lot of growth behind you. So that means there's more risk to fall, right? You're higher in the stratosphere in terms of price growth. So I want to make sure that that's out there. There's risk there. I just think, and this is all risk mitigation. We're talking about at the end of the day. I think one of the most fundamental things you should do going into this hobby is not just, oh, I want it to grow, I want it to grow. It's how do you preserve that capital? That's the first rule of investing, is not to lose money, right? We don't want to put money into something and lose it. We want it to grow, but the first thing is not to lose it. So that means you have to talk about risk. And I think this is probably one of the least risky sets out of all of Scarlet and Violet to go into. I've said this earlier in the video. I think it acts completely differently than anything in Scarlet and Violet. I think it'll perform completely differently than almost anything in Scarlet and Violet. And it touches on that 151, that 30 years of Pokemon performance and IP on the original 151, and there just hasn't been a better generation since, and I don't think there ever will be. And I think that's going to live because of the care that Pokemon Company gives this set, or gives 151, it gives its IP, is going to live for very, very many years into the future. All right, so wrapping this up into some insights and some action that you can take. I think if you have no 151 exposure, you have some money, maybe you're in the market for a booster box like I talked about on Destined Rivals, or again, almost anything in the $200 to $300 range in Scarlet and Violet, spend a little bit of extra money, snag an ETB ASAP. And when I mean ASAP, I mean quick. I very rarely tell people, buy this, buy an ETB. You're not going to regret it, especially if you love the set. It's going to perform well. It's a beautiful collector's piece. It is collector's piece. I know it's like, hey, it's just an ETB. Yeah, it's an ETB of a set that was heavily ripped. That's just frankly rare at this point. It's going to be one of the rarest ETBs in all of Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet, hands down. I think if you don't have any exposure, maybe you're on the cheaper end of things. You can't again pick up packs. We don't have sleeved packs in 151, so I'd be cautious about loose packs. Grab a bundle, or again, we didn't talk about them, but the binder collection, the poster collection, that kind of stuff is fine. However cheap it, the cheapest performing stuff. I think the binder collection, I didn't talk about this. Those binder collections have actually a premium on the price on the packs in them, because the binder collection is sought after. That binder is really cool. Those binders are actually quite nice. They're not as cheap as I think people originally thought when we were getting binder collections. They're actually quite nice. So I think, and let's talk about again, if you have no exposure, if you have some exposure to 151 and you're still looking to buy and deploy money in Scarlet and Violet, I would probably look at shoring up your collection a little bit. I will say I would stay away from the Blooming Waters unless you get them at MSRP. Obviously, if you get any of this at MSRP, that's an auto buy, whatever it is, whatever SKU it is, that doesn't matter. The 151, the Blooming Waters just, they store poorly. People do not talk about that enough. They store incredibly poorly. They rip, they tear, they soak up water and moisture, even out of the air, and curl like you wouldn't believe. Ask me how I know. Ask me how I know. I've bought way more of that stuff in a conditioned space and stored over the last year, and it sucks. And I don't think anyone's talking about it. It really, truly sucks. Again, if you're going to rip the stuff, it doesn't matter. But if you're going to store it, thinking that a heavy hitters collection, legendary premium warriors collection from Sword and Shield is going to sit well, Sea and Sky from Crown Zenith, if that's all you can get at MSRP, it's still a good buy, but it stores poorly. It really, really does. So I want you to stay away from that unless you, again, can get it at MSRP. It's just be cautious of that. I think, again, for the money, spend more money. I would rather just get a booster bundle. I know it's less packs, or again, spend a little bit more money, a lot more money, I guess, and get an Elite Trader box. So, but the point of this video is really, you should have some exposure to 151. Go out and get it now, whatever it is. I don't think it's, we're at the point where it's just not going to stop from a performance-based performance standpoint. I think it's going to, and has, outperformed just about everything in Scarlet and Violet. And that's where your money should be in something that has a lot of runway in terms of growth, has a lot of downside, prevents a lot of downside risk from a reprint standpoint, and supply standpoint, is just absolutely beloved. And this checks everything there is under the sun from an investment standpoint, other than the fact that it's gotten expensive. That's our video today. Let me know, of course, if you agree or disagree with me in the comments section below. Would love your subscription. Would love any likes. Turn notifications on if you don't mind. And with that, we're going to see you on the next one. PokeMarketLab out.